This is my favourite cut of beef and a few ways to use up every single scrap from the fat to the bones. Start by seasoning your beef short ribs with your favourite rub. Be generous because then you won't have to add more seasonings later. I cannot stress how much the flavour is affected by a really good sear, so do not skip this step. These need to be slow cooked and therefore submerged in liquid, and that liquid is really important because you'll be using it later for your stock. This stock will have onions, carrots and red wine as a base, fresh herbs from my garden, and also when available turkey tail mushrooms for their health benefits. They take around 6 to 8 hours in the slow cooker. The long slow cooking process really helps to break down the fat and draw out any collagen and gelatin from the bones, and all that goodness is now in the stock. Now I personally don't like a lot of fat in my stock. I'll keep some in there for flavour, but I will remove the majority of it. Fat naturally rises to the top, and the easiest way to remove it is to sieve the liquid, then refrigerate it overnight, then simply scrape it off with a spoon. Do not throw it away though, because there are so many things you can do with it. In the old days they would call this dripping, and I like to use it instead of oil in certain dishes, although my nan used to eat it spread on toast. Another option to use it up is to make fat balls for the birds. Just pour the melted fat over bird seeds and mealworms and then form it into balls. Some batches of stock will have more fat than others, and this one didn't have much, so I decided to leave it all in. If I'm not using it straight away, I like to reduce it down so it's more concentrated and then easier to store. The more you reduce it down, the more gelatinous it will become. You can add it into a dish at any point, and as soon as it's heated, it will become liquid again. If you want to, you can reduce it down even further and freeze it into highly concentrated stock cubes. These are chicken stock cubes. I forgot to film the results of the beef ones. The next option is to turn that liquid into a gravy, and all you need to do is add a corn flour slurry. Mix a spoonful of corn flour with a splash of water. Continue to thin it out with more water, or you can add in some stock. You don't want the slurry to be too thick because then it can make your gravy lumpy. Add the slurry into the stock, then return it to the heat. Gravy thickness is such a personal taste, and we are home cooks, so there is no precise measurements here. If you want it thicker, add in more corn flour slurry, and if you want it thinner, add in more stock. After serving, I still hold on to the short rib bones to make a bone broth later on, but this tender meat served over mash with veggies from the garden is one of my favourite winter meals. The first time I ever had beef short rib was on a Wagamama's ramen dish, and I love that you can use both the meat and the stock in this meal. You can add in whatever Asian flavours you love to the stock. Ginger and garlic, miso paste, soy sauce, sesame oil and chili oil are amazing. And lastly, whenever there is leftovers of the meat, which isn't very often, I like to put them into my partner's sandwiches. Because of the high fat content, the meat is never dry, and this is probably one of his favourite sandwich fillings ever. You can find the recipe for the short ribs and the stock linked in my bio.